Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something deceptively simple but wildly powerful. The very first thing you tell yourself the moment your eyes snap open. You know that foggy half-dream state where the ceiling looks like a slow-motion lava lamp and your brain feels like it's trying to download an operating system on dial-up. Yeah, that moment. You probably won't survive this morning mindset reset if you let yesterday's chaos, your to-do list, and the existential dread of another Monday roll over you like an 18-wheeler. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time down below, because we're all waking up somewhere in this wide waking world, and that's kinda cool. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge out of bed, muscles, creaky brain half caffeinated, and your mind immediately floods with the usual suspects' deadlines, emails, errands, and the random existential questions like, did I leave the stove on? Or why do socks always disappear in the laundry? It's an avalanche, and you're standing at the bottom with a flimsy umbrella. Here's the catch. The story you tell yourself right now, in these first seconds, has a disproportionately huge impact on how the entire day unfolds. Think of it like tuning a radio. The frequency you pick sets the soundtrack of your day. A positive mindset isn't just a nice to have. It's your mental weather report influencing every interaction, decision, and mood. Historically, cultures around the world have understood this intuitively. The ancient Romans, for example, practiced morning affirmations, not quite the wordy mantras you might imagine, but simple verbal reminders to prepare the mind for the challenges ahead. Marcus Aurelius, that famous Stoic emperor, began each day by mentally rehearsing potential hardships, steeling himself with calm acceptance and readiness. Historians still argue whether his practice was more about discipline or self-compassion, but either way it shaped his outlook in ways that empowered him to rule with steadiness. Your brain is a bit of a gossip. It loves to replay yesterday's drama, spill out worries about tomorrow, and feed you an endless loop of what-ifs. That's why resetting your mindset first thing is like hitting the refresh button before your browser crashes from too many open tabs. Try telling yourself something simple but powerful. Today is a fresh start. Feel how the words catch in your throat, almost as if your brain says, wait, what a reset. You mean I don't have to carry the whole emotional baggage again? Now here's a quirky tidbit. The concept of a morning reset isn't just mental, it's literally wired into your biology. Our circadian rhythm, the 24-hour internal clock, running in the background of your brain, resets every morning, influencing hormone release, body temperature, and alertness. That early morning cortisol spike. It's nature's little nudge to wake up and get moving. So the moment you wake isn't just poetic, it's a physiological chance to reprogram how you respond to the world. But here's where it gets tricky. Historians still argue whether early risers actually have more productive days, or if it's just a cultural myth glorified by Victorian-era work ethics and modern productivity gurus. Regardless, what really matters isn't the time you wake, but what you do with that waking moment. Setting your mental tone right after that first breath before scrolling your phone or letting your mind wander is your secret weapon. Imagine your morning mindset as the paint color of a room. If you start with gloomy gray, everything inside will feel muted cold and harder to navigate. But if you pick a warm sunrise orange, suddenly even the same old clutter looks inviting and manageable. So as you lie there before your feet hit the floor, give yourself permission to frame your day with kindness, curiosity, or even just a single hopeful thought. Something like, I might mess up today, but I'll learn something new, or I get to decide my mood before the world demands it. And if you feel a bit ridiculous whispering this to yourself, congratulations, welcome to the club. We all do. But this little mental habit repeated every morning is like a soft layer of armor that doesn't weigh you down, but cushions your bumps and bruises. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen we talked about last week? If not, it's an ancient Egyptian concoction made of animal excrement and oils used to protect skin from the sun. It sounds gross, sure, but the idea is the same. What you put on first shapes your experience of everything that follows. Your morning mindset is your psychological sunscreen. Apply it carefully. So as you push your blankets off and stand up or roll out, we don't judge, notice what you tell yourself. Are you stepping into the day as a victim of circumstance or as the author of your unfolding story? This simple mental reset, the recognition that today starts now fresh and new, is the foundation for everything else you'll build. You roll out of bed still half entangled in your blanket cocoon, and your brain is already churning out the usual not good enough playlist. But here's a little secret. Embracing imperfection is not just a cliche thrown around by your favorite self-help guru. It's a radical act of rebellion against the unrealistic perfection standards baked into everything from Instagram filters to corporate culture. If you can tell yourself, it's okay to be imperfect every morning, you give yourself permission to stop waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect version of yourself before you start moving forward. Let's flash back a bit. History loves a good imperfection story. Take the Wright brothers, those aviation pioneers who basically said, screw it, let's build a flying machine. Their first flights were nothing close to flawless. In fact, the Kitty Hawk experiments were full of crashes, breakdowns, and failures. But here's the thing, they didn't wait for a perfect blueprint. They iterated, failed, learned, and improved. Without embracing imperfection, the age of flight might still be a dream scribbled on a napkin. Historians still argue whether the Wrights' success was due more to their engineering genius or their willingness to fail spectacularly, but the lesson remains. Waiting for perfection often means waiting forever, and life doesn't pause for you to be flawless. It keeps moving relentlessly. Now here's a quirky tidbit to lighten the mood in Japan. There's a philosophy called wabi-sabi, which literally celebrates the beauty of imperfection and transience. It's like saying, yeah, that cracked teacup. It's more beautiful because it's cracked. Applying a bit of wabi-sabi to your morning mindset means welcoming the cracks and flaws in your plans and in yourself rather than fearing or hiding them. But this is easier said than done, because society has taught us to fear failure like it's a monster under the bed. You probably remember those childhood school projects where the teacher only handed out gold stars for perfect work. Spoiler, the gold stars were often less about actual learning and more about conformity. Today, those old fears still echo in your head when you hesitate to try something new or admit you don't have all the answers. The paradox. Embracing imperfection doesn't mean you're giving up or slacking off. It means recognizing that imperfection is the fertile soil where growth happens. Like a garden that's not afraid of a few weeds, your mind can flourish better when it's not under constant siege from impossible standards. You might be wondering, how do you actually make this morning mantra stick without it feeling like a hollow pep talk? Start small. Each morning, say to yourself, I don't have to be perfect today. Let it roll around in your mind like a pebble in a stream. Notice the relief, the tiny space it creates inside your head where anxiety used to lurk. Here's another historical nugget. The Renaissance era was a mess of imperfection. Artists like Michelangelo didn't just paint and sculpt flawless works on their first try. They made sketches erased, reworked. In fact, some of their most famous pieces were revisions of earlier imperfect versions. Historians still argue whether this trial and error process was intentional or just the necessity of working without modern tools. But either way, imperfection was part of the creative genius. On a personal level, embracing imperfection also means you get to be kinder to yourself when things don't go according to plan. Remember that time you spilled coffee on your shirt before an important meeting. Imperfect, yes, but also perfectly human. It's the willingness to keep going despite these little stumbles that builds resilience and self-trust. And if you're worried this mindset lets you off the hook too easily, think again. Embracing imperfection doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing the difference between striving for progress and chasing an impossible mirage. That's a game changer in your morning routine and your whole life. So next time you wake up and your brain serves you a steaming plate of "I'm not enough" counter, with "I'm enough" cracks and all, it's a small phrase, but it carries a truckload of freedom. You blink open your eyes, and before the coffee has a chance to kick in, your brain is already flicking through the endless notifications, headlines, and mental clutter like it's an overactive news ticker. But here's the kicker. Your focus is like a flashlight in a dark room where you shine it is what you see. Control your focus, especially first thing, and you steer the whole day's experience. Ignore it, and your attention gets hijacked by distractions, worries, or worse, the endless scroll of doom and dopamine hits. This idea isn't new. Back in the 4th century BCE, Aristotle explored attention as the gateway to knowledge. He believed that focusing the mind was essential for learning and virtue. Historians still argue whether his concept of practical wisdom was more about ethics or mental discipline, but it's clear that control over your attention was always linked to living a good life. Here's a quirky tidbit. There's an ancient meditation technique from India called Trataka, where you fix your gaze on a single point, like a candle flame, to train concentration. Sounds simple, but many who try it report feeling like their brains are on a roller coaster at first, because controlling focus is both physical and mental training. Fast forward to modern times, and your brain is swimming in a sea of distractions. Your phone buzzes, the newsfeed updates, emails pile up, and your mind flits from one worry to the next like a caffeinated squirrel. Without control, your attention becomes a ping pong ball bouncing chaotically and leaving you exhausted without actually accomplishing much. But what if you could be the calm lighthouse in that storm of stimuli? You can by choosing deliberately what to focus on first thing. Try this simple morning hack before diving into your phone or email. Take a moment to set an intention about your focus. Maybe it's, "I will pay attention to what I can control," or "I will notice what brings me energy." Even that tiny act is like planting a flag in your mental landscape. The science backs this up. Psychologists talk about the attentional blink, a phenomenon where your brain briefly blanks after focusing on one thing, making it less receptive to new info for a moment. That means your first focus choice sets the stage for what your brain picks up next. If you start with chaos, chaos follows. Start with calm, and calm has a better shot. Historians still debate whether the rise of smartphones has permanently rewired our brains for shorter attention spans, or if it's just a passing phase. Either way, mastering your focus in the morning is an ancient skill made more crucial by today's digital overwhelm. Remember that quirky candle-staring meditation? You don't have to be a yogi to borrow the idea. You can literally take 30 seconds in the morning to close your eyes. Breathe deeply and focus on a single word or image. That's like giving your brain a mental reset, telling it, "Here's what matters right now." Of course, it's tempting to scroll your phone to wake up. But beware the scroll trap where 10 minutes turn into an hour, and your mood dips faster than a roller coaster. This habit hijacks your focus and drags you into other people's dramas and ads selling miracle cures. Instead, be the gatekeeper of your attention. If you've ever watched a magician perform, you know how they use misdirection. Where your attention goes is what you miss. Your morning attention works the same way. If you let distractions pull you in, you lose sight of what you want to build. So, as you sit up, perhaps groggy and half alert, ask yourself, where do I want my focus today? What can I give my attention that will help, rather than drain me? The answer isn't always obvious, but the act of choosing is your first power move of the day. Remember how the Wright brothers didn't wait for the perfect flight? They focused on the next small step. You can do the same with your attention. Focus on one manageable task or thought, and let the rest fall into place. In this way, your morning focus becomes the compass that guides your day's journey, steady, intentional, and mindful. And that, my friend, is the quiet revolution. Your brain needs to stop being a ping pong ball and start being the calm lighthouse. You're still in that hazy, half-awake state, maybe sipping on a lukewarm coffee, or feeling the cool breeze from an open window when you decide to let gratitude sneak into your morning thoughts. It's a subtle thing, this practice, like sprinkling a pinch of salt over bland food. Suddenly, everything tastes richer. Gratitude's quiet power lies in its ability to shift your energy from scarcity to abundance without demanding much effort. Just naming a few things you're thankful for can rewire your brain to notice more good stuff, making your day feel lighter and more manageable. This isn't some new age fad. Ancient Stoics, like Seneca, believed gratitude was essential to living a good life, emphasizing appreciation even amid hardship. Historians still argue whether their writings were practical philosophy or just self-help for Roman elites, but their emphasis on thankfulness rings true across centuries. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. Researchers have discovered that people who keep gratitude journals tend to sleep better and feel less stressed. It's almost like gratitude works as a natural lullaby for your anxious mind. Whispering, "You're okay," when it wants to scream, what if? You might wonder how this works. Well, gratitude activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals that make you feel happy. So even the simple act of thinking "I'm grateful for my cozy bed" sets off a chemical chain reaction, a small party in your head, priming your mood for positivity. But let's not get carried away. Gratitude isn't about ignoring real problems or plastering on fake smiles. It's about acknowledging what's good in your life, even if it's tiny, a warm cup of tea, a funny meme, or that one stubborn plant you keep trying to keep alive. It's like turning a spotlight on the bright spots rather than the cracks. Historians still debate whether gratitude was used more as a religious ritual or a personal mental tool in ancient cultures. Either way, the practice transcends belief systems because it taps into a universal human need to feel connected and grounded. Try this each morning. Name 3 things you're genuinely grateful for. Maybe it's the smell of rain, your pet's goofy antics, or even the fact that your Wi-Fi is working, which, let's be honest, feels like a miracle some days. The key is sincerity. Don't force it. Let your mind wander to what truly makes you feel thankful. And if you're thinking, yeah, gratitude, but what about my never-ending to-do list? Remember that gratitude isn't a replacement for action, but a foundation. When you start your day noticing what's good, you build resilience to face challenges without feeling overwhelmed. Remember that quirky ancient Egyptian sunscreen made with crocodile dung? If not, it's a mix of animal waste and oils believed to protect skin from the sun. It sounds bizarre, but the Egyptians were experimenting with what worked, much like you're experimenting with gratitude, finding ways to shield your mind from daily stressors. So, as you breathe in the morning air, let a little gratitude settle in your chest. Let it be the quiet undercurrent beneath your rush and noise. It's a gentle way to say to yourself, today might be messy, but there's good here too. That simple acknowledgement can change the rhythm of your day more than you realize. You stand there half awake, maybe brushing your teeth, or staring at your reflection with bedhead that could win awards for most chaotic, and you hear that voice inside the inner drill sergeant with the megaphone blasting all your flaws and failures like it's a stadium concert. But tonight, let's talk about swapping that exhausting critic for a gentler coach self-compassion. It's the art of treating yourself with kindness, especially when you screw up or fall short. Because let's face it, if you can't cut yourself some slack, who else will? The idea of self-compassion is surprisingly ancient. Buddhist teachings from over 2,500 years ago emphasized loving-kindness metta-meditation, which involves sending goodwill to yourself and others. Historians still argue whether this was originally a spiritual practice or an early form of psychological therapies, but the results are the same. Kindness to self fosters resilience. Here's a quirky tidbit. Experiments show that people who practice self-compassion are less likely to procrastinate. Sounds counterintuitive, right? You'd think being hard on yourself would push you to work harder, but actually, being your own harshest critic often paralyzes motivation, while self-kindness frees up mental energy to act. Your brain is wired for survival, which often translates into negative self-talk as a misguided form of protection, like a grumpy guard dog barking to keep you from danger. But it often mistakes for threats. That's why self-compassion is like training your guard dog to be a loyal friend instead. Think about how you treat a friend who's struggling. You probably don't yell at them or remind them of every slip-up. Instead, you offer encouragement and understanding. Yet oddly, we rarely do this for ourselves. Historians still debate whether the rise of individualism in Western cultures has made self-compassion harder to practice because of the emphasis on personal achievement and self-reliance. Either way, cultivating kindness toward yourself is a radical step toward mental peace. Try this simple exercise when you catch that inner drill sergeant shouting pause and say, "It's okay. I'm doing my best," not to make excuses, but to remind yourself that being human means being imperfect and deserving of care. Remember that ancient Egyptian sunscreen with crocodile dung? It's a bit like self-compassion. It might sound strange or uncomfortable at first, but it's a protective layer you apply to shield yourself from harshness. So as you prepare for the day, invite a softer voice to speak in your mind, one that cheers you on quietly rather than shouting orders. This subtle shift isn't just fluffy feel-good talk. It's science-backed mental training that can transform how you handle stress and setbacks. Because at the end of the day, the person you live with 24/7 sound as yourself. Treat that roommate with kindness, patience, and a little humor. It's the best investment you can make. You open your eyes, and somewhere between the last yawn and your first sip of coffee, your mind begins to paint a picture, not of what's wrong, but of what could be. Visualizing success daily isn't just a buzzword from motivational posters. It's a mental rehearsal that primes your brain to move towards your goals with more confidence and clarity. Imagine you're an athlete warming up before a big game mentally, running through every move. Your morning visualization sets the stage for your day's performance. The power of visualization has roots deep in history. Ancient Greek athletes reportedly practiced mental imagery before competitions, imagining every detail of their race or match. Historians still argue whether this was superstition or early sports psychology, but the outcome was the same: enhanced focus and better results. Fast forward to today, and athletes, performers, and leaders alike swear by the practice. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some neuroscientists discovered that imagining a movement activates almost the same brain regions as actually performing it. So when you picture yourself confidently acing that presentation or nailing your workout, your brain is getting a mini rehearsal. It's like your neurons are shadowboxing for the real deal. But visualization isn't about wishful thinking or daydreaming. It's about creating vivid, specific scenes in your mind that engage your senses, what you see, hear, feel, even smell. The more detailed your mental movie, the stronger the neural connections you build to your goals. If you've ever noticed how babies sometimes practice movements in the womb, kicking and stretching, you're seeing early forms of visualization that prepare the body for action. That biological rehearsal is nature's way of getting ready. Historians still debate whether early visualization techniques were passed down orally or developed independently across cultures, but the consistency of the practice suggests it's a universal tool for human success. So, tomorrow morning, try this before jumping out of bed, close your eyes, and see yourself moving through your day successfully. Picture finishing that tricky task, handling stress calmly, or having a great conversation. Feel the emotions of accomplishment and pride. This mental exercise doesn't just boost motivation, it also reduces anxiety by familiarizing your brain with positive outcomes. It's like previewing a movie before the premiere, so you're less surprised by the plot twists. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen? Just as ancient Egyptians prepared their skin to face the harsh sun, you're preparing your mind to face the day's challenges. Visualization is your mental sunscreen, protecting your confidence and focus. The key is consistency. Like brushing your teeth or stretching your body daily, visualization strengthens your mental muscles. Over time, it rewires your brain to expect success, making your actions more aligned and your days more productive. So as you sit with your coffee, paint a vivid picture of your wins. Your brain's already on board. It just needs you to be the director. You're still in your pajamas. Maybe your hair's doing its usual. I woke up like this impression, and before you let the day's chaos pour in, you pause to set your boundaries. Setting boundaries early is like putting up a fence around your mental garden. Without it, you risk letting the weeds of stress, unsolicited demands, and energy vampires trample your peace before your coffee's even had a chance to kick in. Saying no or not now before the day's requests flood in protects your time focus and sanity. Ancient societies understood the importance of boundaries, though they called them different names. The Romans had the concept of limen, literally the threshold of a home, symbolizing the sacred space between the outside world and private life. Historians still argue whether this was purely physical or also mental. But either way, the idea of guarding your inner space has long been respected. Here's a quirky tidbit. Did you know that some cultures have rituals to close the door on unwanted spirits or energies at the start of the day? While we're not warding off ghosts, the metaphor applies. Setting mental boundaries is like drawing an energetic line to keep negativity or distractions at bay. In today's nonstop world, boundaries are more important than ever. Your phone buzzes, emails ping, and social media scrolls endlessly. Without clear limits, you become a resource pool everyone dips into, leaving you drained by noon. Psychologists emphasize that boundary setting is a crucial component of emotional self-care, helping to reduce burnout and increase focus. It's not selfish, it's essential. Think of it as putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Historians still debate whether early monastic practices around solitude and silence influenced modern boundary setting concepts. But these ancient habits show that intentional separation from external chaos has been a long-standing strategy for mental health. Try this tomorrow before you dive into your emails or social feeds. Take a moment to set a simple boundary. Maybe it's, I'll check messages only after breakfast, or I won't answer work calls before 9 a.m. Write it down or say it aloud, whatever anchors it in your mind. Remember that odd Egyptian sunscreen made from crocodile dung? Think of your boundaries as a protective layer. It might sound weird or strict at first, but it shields you from unnecessary damage. By drawing these early lines, you're not shutting the world out. You're inviting yourself to be fully present and energized when you engage. Boundaries aren't walls, they're gates you control. So as you stretch and prepare to face the day, remind yourself your time and energy are precious. Setting boundaries early isn't about being rigid, it's about being intentional and kind to your own needs. You might still be carrying the weight of yesterday, the regrets, the awkward conversations, the things left undone, and that morning fog of past mistakes can cling stubbornly. But letting go of yesterday right now, this very morning, is like releasing a heavy backpack you've been dragging uphill. Holding on to yesterday's blunders only drags you down and makes your fresh start feel like wading through mud. So tell yourself, today is new, yesterday is done. This idea isn't just feel-good fluff. Across time and culture, the act of leaving the past behind has been a vital ritual. The ancient Egyptians had a weighing of the heart ceremony where the deceased's heart was balanced against the feather of Ma'at, symbolizing truth and balance. Historians still argue whether this was meant literally or metaphorically, but it's a powerful image of letting go of the burdens that weigh us down. A quirky tidbit: some Native American tribes use a smudge ritual with sage to cleanse spaces and minds, symbolically removing negative energy and old stories. While you probably won't be lighting sage in your kitchen, mentally smudging yesterday's worries can have a similar cleansing effect. Your brain loves to replay mistakes on a loop, like a glitchy old VHS tape. That's partly because it's wired to learn from error to avoid danger. But when it overstays its welcome, this loop becomes toxic, rumination sapping your energy and focus. Psychologists explain this as mental time travel, where the mind jumps back and forth between past regrets and future anxieties. Learning to anchor yourself in the present morning moment breaks this cycle. Historians still debate whether the concept of tabula rasa, the clean slate, first arose in ancient philosophy or Renaissance humanism, but it's become a cornerstone for modern psychology. Every morning is your tabula rasa, your chance to start fresh. So how do you let go? Start with a simple ritual as you get ready. Picture placing yesterday's worries in a box and setting it aside. You don't have to solve everything right now. Just give yourself permission to not carry it forward. Remember that bizarre Egyptian crocodile dung sunscreen? It was a layer of protection, strange but effective. Letting go of yesterday is your mental sunscreen, an odd but necessary shield against the harshness of carrying too much emotional baggage. When your mind tries to drag you back into old mistakes, gently remind it. That's yesterday's story. Today is new. It's not denial. It's choosing what narrative you want to live. As you step into the day, lighter and freer, notice how much easier it feels to breathe, think, and act. That's the power of releasing yesterday at dawn. The morning light filters through your window as you stand there blinking awake, and you realize the day ahead is a blank page. But which direction will your pen take? Affirming your values. First thing is like setting a compass before you embark. Your core beliefs act as your internal GPS, guiding decisions, big and small, and helping you steer through the noise without losing yourself. Ancient philosophers from Confucius to Socrates talked about living in harmony with virtue and truth. Historians still argue whether their moral teachings were about social order or personal enlightenment, but they all agreed knowing your values is essential for a fulfilled life. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some studies suggest that people who can clearly articulate their values experience less stress and make decisions faster. It's like having a mental shortcut that cuts through indecision and doubt. Values aren't some abstract concept locked away in dusty books. They're practical, everyday tools. When you affirm your commitment to kindness, curiosity, or resilience, you create a filter for what deserves your attention and energy. Think about how different your day feels when you remind yourself that honesty or creativity matters more than winning arguments or ticking off tasks. Your actions align better with what truly resonates inside you. Psychologists describe this as value-congruent behavior, which boosts motivation and well-being. When your day matches your values, you feel authentic and energized, even when things get tough. Historians still debate how universal certain values are across cultures, but personal alignment remains key no matter where or when you live. Try this morning, say aloud, or in your mind, one or two values that matter most to you. Something simple like, today I choose patience and openness. Let it soak in as your internal North Star. Remember that odd crocodile dung sunscreen? It's a reminder that protection sometimes comes from unexpected places. Your values are like spiritual sunscreen, shielding you from the burn of external pressures and confusion. By affirming your values early, you set a tone that helps you navigate distractions, challenges, and surprises with grace. They act like the gentle tug on your sleeve, reminding you who you are and what you stand for. So, as you face the day, trust your internal compass. Even if the path twists and turns, values help you keep your footing, making your journey more meaningful and less exhausting. You've already started, but somewhere between the first task and the 100th notification, you realize that momentum matters more than mountains. Small wins, those tiny victories that seem almost insignificant. A perfectly brewed cup of coffee, a completed email, a smile from a stranger build up like dominoes, creating a cascade of motivation that powers your day. Recognizing and celebrating these micro-achievements is a secret weapon quietly fueling your ongoing drive. Looking back in history, even monumental achievements were the result of countless small steps. The Great Wall of China, for example, wasn't built overnight by a single emperor's command, but over centuries by countless hands, brick by brick. Historians still argue how much the wall's construction was a symbol of defense versus political power, but no one denies it was a product of persistent incremental effort. Here's a quirky tidbit in Japan. There's a concept called kaizen, which means continuous improvement. It's about making small, consistent changes rather than sweeping transformations. Toyota famously used kaizen to revolutionize manufacturing, showing how tiny improvements add up to big success. Recognizing small wins isn't just a motivational gimmick, it rewires your brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and encouraging you to keep going. It's like giving yourself a high five every few steps instead of waiting to celebrate a distant finish line. Psychologists point out that celebrating progress, even small, reduces feelings of burnout and builds resilience. When you see yourself moving forward, you're more likely to stay committed. Historians still debate whether the concept of progress is a modern invention or if earlier civilizations understood and valued incremental growth. Regardless, the power of small wins remains timeless. So, how do you capture these wins? Start by acknowledging them each morning. Maybe you got out of bed without hitting snooze, or you remembered to drink water first thing. These count. Write them down, say them aloud, or just smile and nod to yourself. Remember that quirky crocodile dung sunscreen? It was made in small batches, each mixture slightly different, but the consistency built up protection. Your small wins build a protective layer of confidence. As your day unfolds, keep an eye out for these wins. They're your personal checkpoints, encouraging you that you're on the right path. And if a big challenge looms, lean on those small wins. They're proof you've got this. So, take a moment now to recognize something small but meaningful you've done recently. Feel how it lifts you up. Momentum isn't about giant leaps. It's about steady steps, one after another, that make your journey unstoppable. You're somewhere between yawning and fully awake, and the day's possibilities stretch out ahead like an uncharted map. Cultivating curiosity is your secret ticket to turning the mundane into an adventure. When you approach the day with a playful what-if attitude, you open doors to new ideas, fresh perspectives, and unexpected opportunities, even in the tiniest moments. Curiosity transforms routine into exploration, and that mindset can radically shift how your day feels. Curiosity is as old as humanity itself. Ancient philosophers like Plato and Aristotle praised inquiry as a key to wisdom. Historians still argue whether their teachings focused more on ethical living or intellectual curiosity. But the spirit of wonder remains central to human progress. Here's a quirky tidbit. Babies are born curious creatures, exploring everything by touching, tasting, and poking. Some researchers suggest curiosity is wired into our genes as a survival mechanism, helping us learn about the world and avoid dangers. As adults, it's easy to lose that childlike curiosity under the weight of routines and responsibilities. But the good news, you can reignite it any morning by simply asking questions about your tasks, your surroundings, or even your feelings. Psychologists describe curiosity as a powerful motivator linked to dopamine release, which not only makes learning pleasurable, but also boosts resilience and mental flexibility. Curious people tend to handle stress better because they view challenges as puzzles rather than threats. Historians still debate whether curiosity was discouraged in some ancient societies to maintain social order, but across cultures, those who questioned and explored drove innovation and change. Try this tomorrow as you start your day. Ask yourself, what can I learn today? Or what unexpected thing might happen? Let your mind wander freely without judgment. It's like giving your brain permission to play. Remember that odd crocodile dung sunscreen? It was a strange but effective mixture born out of curiosity and experimentation. Your morning curiosity is your mental experiment blending wonder with learning. When you view your day with curiosity, even setbacks become interesting challenges to solve. That shift in mindset can transform frustration into fascination, making your daily journey richer and more rewarding. So, as you stretch or sip your coffee, invite a spark of curiosity. Let your mind wander into the what if and how might realms. You might just surprise yourself with what you discover. You're sitting there maybe still in pajamas, breathing in that early morning air, and before the day rushes in with its usual noise, you take a moment to breathe intentionally. Intentional breathing sounds simple, almost too simple, like telling someone to blink, but it's a powerful tool to anchor your calm before chaos hits. Deep, measured breaths reset your nervous system, Help clear your mind and set a rhythm that your body craves but often forgets in the daily grind. Breathing techniques have been around forever. Ancient yogis in India practiced pranayama, a series of controlled breathing exercises believed to balance energy and mental clarity. Historians still argue whether pranayama was primarily spiritual or health-focused, but its benefits are widely recognized. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some studies suggest that deep breathing can reduce the body's production of stress hormones like cortisol in just a few minutes. It's like a natural pause button for your fight or flight response. You might think I breathe all the time. What's the big deal? True, you do. But most of us default to shallow, quick breaths, especially when stressed or tired. Intentional breathing taps into your parasympathetic nervous system, calming you down and helping you focus. Psychologists often use breathwork as a first-line intervention for anxiety and panic attacks because it's immediate and accessible. You don't need fancy tools, just your breath in a few moments. Historians still debate how early humans discovered breath control, but it likely evolved alongside meditation and physical exercise practices in ancient cultures around the world. Try this simple exercise tomorrow morning. Inhale slowly for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6, and repeat a few times. Notice how your body softens, how the mind quiets down. This 4-4-6 pattern is easy to remember and effective. Remember that weird crocodile dung sunscreen? Just as that odd concoction protected ancient skin, intentional breathing shields your mind from stress's assault, forming an invisible armor. As you prepare for the day, this breathwork can be your secret weapon, quiet, unobtrusive, and profoundly grounding. It helps you start with calm clarity rather than scattered chaos. So, the next time you feel the morning's rush pulling you in, pause, breathe intentionally, and watch your mind settle like dust after a storm. That gentle breath is your anchor, your reset, and your first step toward mastering the day. You've just rolled out of bed, maybe checked the time, and the temptation is already there. Reach for your phone, dive into the sea of notifications, memes, and breaking news. But here's a truth bomb. Your first hour of the day is the most vulnerable to getting sucked into the digital scroll trap. A digital detox in that morning hour is like giving your brain a fresh canvas before it's splattered with emails, social media drama, and ads shouting for your attention. The idea of avoiding distractions first thing isn't new. Ancient monks in various traditions practiced morning silence or solitude to cultivate mindfulness and clarity. Historians still argue whether these early rituals were more spiritual or practical, but their focus on uninterrupted mornings is a shared human theme. Here's a quirky tidbit. One study found that heavy morning smartphone users report higher anxiety throughout the day. It's like feeding your brain junk food before breakfast. Your brain craving dopamine hits can spiral into a roller coaster of emotional ups and downs, all before you've even brushed your teeth. Psychologists warn that early exposure to digital distractions hijacks your attention and mood, making it harder to focus on real priorities. It's like starting a race already tripped up by a tangled shoelace. Historians still debate whether our ancestors had any equivalent to digital detox, but their practices of dawn meditation and ritual likely served similar purposes to center and prepare the mind. Try this tomorrow for the first hour after waking. Avoid screens completely. Instead, engage in something nourishing, a short walk, journaling, or just breathing with intention. It's a chance to set your own agenda rather than reacting to others' demands. Remember that odd crocodile dung sunscreen? Just like that unusual protective layer shielded ancient skin, your morning digital detox guards your mental clarity from early bombardment. By giving your brain space before the digital noise floods in, you're reclaiming control over your focus and mood. It's a small change with big ripple effects. So as you wake, resist the pull of your phone and instead gift yourself a calm, undistracted morning to set the tone for the entire day. You're still savoring those early moments of calm before the world officially crashes in, and here's where reclaiming your time becomes an act of self-preservation. Carving out moments solely for you before emails, texts, and meetings demand your attention is like finding a secret garden in a city of noise. It's your sanctuary, your personal space to recharge. Reflect and simply be. This isn't just modern mindfulness mumbo-jumbo. Historical evidence shows that even the busiest of ancient civilizations valued time for solitude. Roman philosopher Seneca advised his students to take daily retreats for reflection. Historians still debate whether these retreats were strict physical withdrawals or mental practices, but the value of solitude for clarity is undeniable. Here's a quirky tidbit. In Victorian England, the morning hour was often reserved for quiet personal rituals, like reading or writing letters, long before the day's hustle began. Imagine that a time when rushing around was considered rude. Modern science backs up the power of reclaiming time. Psychologists find that even brief moments of solitude help reduce stress, improve concentration, and boost creativity. It's like giving your brain a mini vacation. Historians still argue how widespread such personal time was in ancient cultures, but the consistent theme across eras is clear. Humans need space to reset. Try this tomorrow before you plunge into your day. Dedicate even 10 minutes to yourself. It could be sipping tea, journaling, stretching, or simply sitting in silence. No distractions allowed. Remember that odd crocodile dung sunscreen? Just as it shielded ancient skin from harsh elements, this time shields your mind from overwhelm. By protecting these early moments, you fortify your resilience and set a pace that honors your well-being. It's a quiet rebellion against the relentless demands of modern life. So as the morning unfolds, cherish your reclaimed moments. They're the roots that nourish your day's growth. The day stretches ahead, unpredictable and uncharted, and here's a gentle reminder to end your morning self-talk with patience. Embracing patience means allowing the day to unfold without forcing every outcome or rushing the process. It's the quiet, steady trust that even if things don't go perfectly or as planned, you will navigate them with calm persistence and hope. Patience has been praised across cultures and ages. The Tao Te Ching, written over 2,500 years ago, teaches the art of Wu Wei, or effortless action, doing without forcing. Historians still debate whether this was philosophical advice or a political strategy, but its emphasis on patience and flow resonates universally. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some studies show that people with higher patience levels tend to experience better mental health and make wiser decisions. It's like patience isn't just a virtue, it's a brain booster. Your nervous system is designed to react quickly to stress, but patience helps regulate those impulses, slowing down your emotional reactions and letting you respond thoughtfully. It's the difference between a snap judgment and a considered choice. Psychologists describe patience as a form of emotional self-regulation, helping you tolerate discomfort without spiraling into anxiety or frustration. Cultivating it in the morning primes you for resilience throughout the day. Historians still argue how much patience was valued in different societies, but the enduring wisdom is clear. Patience is essential for sustained well-being. Try this tomorrow when you feel your mind racing or the day's pace picking up. Whisper to yourself, "I trust the process." Let that thought root you in the present. Remember that odd crocodile dung sunscreen? It protected skin by forming a steady barrier. Not rushing, just shielding steadily. Your patience is that barrier for your mind against impatience and chaos. So as you face the day's unknowns, carry patience like a quiet shield. It won't speed things up, but it will help you move through them with grace and hope. And now, as this journey eases toward night, breathe deeply and let that calm settle over you, like a soft blanket, knowing you've equipped yourself with 5 powerful things to tell yourself each morning to transform your day.